The relationship between Jungkook and Jimin has always been one of the most interesting mysteries that has never really been answered, even by time. In the midst of the global spotlight on BTS, between the glitter of the stage, the applause that never subsides, and the millions of eyes that keep watching their every move, there is something that feels different when these two names are mentioned together. Not just a groupmate, not just an ordinary friend. There is a closeness that is difficult to explain with words, but so real that it can be felt by anyone who pays close attention to it. Many wonder, how is their relationship behind the scenes? Are all the moments that look warm just part of the professionalism as an idol, or is it a reflection of something much deeper? This question keeps spinning in the minds of fans, especially when small moments that seem simple actually trigger a wave of big speculation that shakes social media. On several occasions, Jungkook looks so comfortable being around Jimin, not only in formal situations such as concerts or television shows, but also in relaxing moments that seem not to be designed for the public. The way Jungkook looked at Jimin, the way he laughed out loud when he was next to him, to small gestures like touching his shoulder or just standing closer than the others. Everything seemed to keep a story that was never really revealed. But what's more interesting is how Jimin responds to all of that. He is not the type of person who openly shows excessive emotions, but when he is with Jungkook, there is a subtle but noticeable change. His smile becomes more sincere, his gaze is softer, and his reaction often looks spontaneous, as if there is no filter that limits him. This is not just an empty assumption, but something that is repeatedly recorded on various occasions, both by official cameras and unexpected moments caught by fans. One of the most talked about evidence is how they take care of each other in difficult times. In the pressure of the entertainment industry so hard, where every little mistake can be a big spotlight, having someone who can be fully trusted is a very rare thing. And many believe that Jungkook and Jimin found it with each other. There was a moment when Jungkook looked nervous on stage, and without the need for words, Jimin was near him, giving support in a very simple but meaningful way. On the other hand, when Jimin looks exhausted or emotional, Jungkook often becomes a figure who is secretly present, not stealing attention, but enough to make a difference. This kind of interaction may seem small, but that's where its power lies, because big things are often hidden in almost invisible details. What makes this relationship more interesting is how they themselves rarely discuss it directly. There is no big statement, no long clarification that explains what really happened. They choose to let their actions speak, and maybe that's where their honesty lies. Because in a world full of imagery, silence is sometimes the most powerful form of authenticity. Foreign media also began to highlight this dynamic, especially when clips of their interaction went viral and triggered various interpretations. Some call it a rare friendship, while others see it as something more complex and emotional. But despite all the labels given, one thing that cannot be denied is that their relationship has a depth that not many people have. Fans, who are known for their sharp observation, are even able to find small patterns that are consistent over time. The way they always come back to each other in certain situations, the way they look for each other in the middle of the crowd, to how they look the most be themselves when they are together. All of this forms an unwritten narrative, but so powerful that it's hard to ignore. But behind all that, there is also another side that is rarely talked about. This kind of closeness is not always easy to maintain, especially in the midst of public pressure that continues to monitor. Every interaction can be misinterpreted. Every moment can be magnified until it loses its original meaning. And maybe this is the reason why they choose to remain silent, keep what they have without having to explain it to the world. Because in the end, not all relationships need to be defined. Not all feelings have to be named. There are things that are quite felt, enough to be lived, without the need to be proven to anyone. And maybe the relationship between Jungkook and Jimin is one of them. A relationship that is not noisy, but talks a lot, which is not always visible but always felt, which does not need recognition, but continues to show its presence through consistent little things. And precisely because of that, this mystery is still alive. Because the more people try to understand, the more they feel that there is something that cannot be fully explained. Something that only the two of them can understand, but the story doesn't cannot be reached by anyone precisely after the video clips. Maybe the world will never really know how their reaction that appeared became much bigger than the moment itself. But from all the existing evidence, In a matter of
all
hours,
the moments that have been
Jungkook and
revealed,
Jimin's names again
one thing
dominated the
becomes
global
clearer,
trend,
whatever it is,
triggering a
their
cross-country
relationship is
discussion
real.
that not only
Not
involved
just an
army,
illusion,
but
not
also
just
the
a
media,
role,
cultural
but something that
observers,
grows
and the public who
survives,
previously did not really
and
follow
continues to
BTS.
develop in the midst of all the pressures
Interestingly,
that exist.
some foreign media began to
And that's
associate
where
the
the beauty
moment with
lies.
the dynamics of
Not
the
on a
long-term
definite
relationship
answer,
between these two
but
idols.
on a meaningful
They bring
journey,
back old archives,
a story that never
pieces
ends,
of
and
interviews
may not be
behind-the-scenes
destined to end.
footage, to
But
small
this
moments
story
on
does not
stage
stop
that may have
only
been
at
missed.
what is seen on the
All
surface.
of them are
The
arranged
deeper
like
you look
puzzle
at it,
pieces. The more
as
it
if trying
feels
to
that the
find
relationship
hidden patterns
between
that have not
Jungkook
been
and
seen
Jimin
so
holds a
far.
layer of
And the more
emotions
pieces
that is
are
much more
collected,
complex
the
than
greater
just
the
an ordinary
curiosity that
closeness.
arises.
There is a dynamic that
Some
changes over
reports
time.
even mention that
Developing
the
with their
relationship
journey
between
from a dreamy
Jungkook and
teenager
Jimin
to a
always
global
has a
figure
unique
who is
emotional
adored by
layer.
millions of people,
Not just
and the
early
ordinary
days of
closeness,
debut,
but a
their
form of
relationship
connection
is often
formed
described
from
as
intense
something
shared
light,
experiences,
full of jokes,
non-stop
sometimes
training,
even looks like
industrial
two best
pressure,
friends who like to
to
tease each
fragile
other
moments
nonstop.
that are rarely exposed
Jungkook, who
to
is
the
known as
public.
Magne,
In
is
this
often
narrative,
the target
the brief
of Jimin's
viral
chastity,
gaze is not a random
but behind
event,
all that,
but a
there
reflection
is
of
a
a long,
that is
colorful
slowly
journey.
starting
On the
to
other
form.
hand, a
Army's
foundation that may
reaction
not
is
be
getting
clear
more
at that
emotional.
time. Many
But now
admitted
it feels
that they
so
felt
strong that as
feeling
time
what
goes by,
happened,
changes
even though
begin to
they
be
only
seen.
watched it
It
through the
doesn't
screen.
mean they're far away.
Some say that
On the
Jungkook's
contrary,
expression looks
the
like someone
closeness
who is
remained,
holding something,
but it became
whether
calmer,
it's worry,
deeper,
fatigue,
and felt more
or
mature.
even guilt of
They no
unknown
longer
origin.
always show explicit
Meanwhile, Jimin,
interaction,
with a more subtle
but
gesture,
it is in silence
is considered
that many
as trying
things
to
talk.
keep balance.
A brief
As
look,
if he doesn't want
a
to
small
magnify
smile,
something that is actually
or even
happening.
a speechless presence is
But
proof
in the
that
midst
the
of all
connection
those
is never really
interpretations,
lost. There are also
there
voices
is one
that try
thing
to
that
pull
often
back the
escapes
discussion
attention,
in a more rational
which is how they
direction.
understand
They
each other
reminded
without
that
the
as
need
a
to
public
explain.
figure, in some
Jungkook
moments of
and
the interview,
Jimin's every
it
move
is
is
clear how
always
they
under
can
the
guess each other's
microscope.
thoughts, what looks
Continue
big to the
unfinished
audience,
sentences,
does
or
not
even laugh at
necessarily
things
have the
that are not
same
fully
meaning for
understood
those
by
who
others.
experience it directly.
This is not something that
in this
can be made up.
context, the moment
the
could be
result
just
of
a
a
spontaneous
spontaneous and shared
interaction that was
experiences.
accidentally caught on camera
However,
in a too perfect
not all of their
angle.
journeys went smoothly.
But that's where the
There are
power of
times
this
when
phenomenon
distance
lies,
seems to appear,
that it opens up
where
such
their
a wide
interaction is
space for
seen to be
interpretation.
reduced and triggers
Everyone
various
sees it in a
speculations
different
among
way,
fans.
bringing
Many
their own
ask,
experiences
has something
and feelings
changed?
into the
Is
narrative
the
that is being
relationship
formed.
starting to stretch?
And without realizing
But like
it,
many
that
things
small
in life,
moment
what
turns
is seen
into a
from the
collective
outside
mirror,
does not always
where
reflect
millions of
what is
people
actually
project
happening
their
inside.
emotions.
Some observers
psychologists
actually
who
see
were
this
interviewed
phase
by
as
the
a sign of
international media
maturity.
even gave
That
an
a
interesting
strong
point of view.
relationship does
They
not
say that
always
humans
have to
are
be shown
naturally
all the time.
attracted to
There is
emotional
space
uncertainty.
given.
There is
A
time to
situation
grow
where something
individually
feels important
without having to
but is
lose
not
the
fully
connection that has been
understandable.
built.
In the case
And
of
when they were
Jungkook
seen
and
together
Jimin,
again, the uncertainty
there was a
is
familiar
reinforced by the
feeling that
long
was
history of their
immediately felt,
relationship, as if
making
there was
every
never
little
a detail
detail
feel like
really
a clue to a
separated.
bigger story. What makes this
And in
story
the midst
even
of all
more
that,
touching
one
is
question
how they
still
become
hangs
each
in the
other's
air.
home in the middle
Do
of
they
a
realize the
fast-moving
impact
world.
of that moment?
In an industry
Did
that demands
Jungkook and
perfection,
Jimin know that
where
the brief
mental
gaze
and
had
emotional
triggered a
pressure
wave
is
of
often
emotions
invisible
around
to the
the
public,
public?
or
Having someone
for
who
them,
understands
it's just a
without
part of a
judging is
routine
something
that they
very
never thought
valuable.
was special.
And many
There
believe
is no
that definite
Jungkook
answer,
and Jimin found
and
it in
maybe
each other.
it will never exist.
There are small moments
because
that may
in the
seem
end,
trivial. What makes
have a
this
deep
moment so
meaning,
strong is
like
not
when
what
one
really
of them
happened,
speaks,
but
the
what
other
is felt
listens
by those who
attentively.
witnessed it, or when
A
they laugh
combination
together,
of reality
not because
and
of something
interpretation,
big, between
but because
facts
of the
and
comfort
feelings
they feel.
Mixed
These
into
things
one
may not
and the
always be
entertainment
in the
world
news
that
headlines,
is often filled
but
with
that's where the
fabricated
authenticity
narratives.
of their relationship
Moments
is seen.
like this feel different.
On the other hand,
He doesn't have a script.
the pressure from outside
does not
never
have
really
an
stops.
official explanation.
Speculations
And precisely
theories,
because of that,
even
it
exaggerated
feels more
assumptions
real,
often appear,
closer to the human
trying to
side
label
that is
something
often
that
hidden
actually
behind the
doesn't
public
need to be
image.
defined.
Army will probably
But
keep
until
looking
now,
for answers.
both of them
The
still
media
choose
may
not
continue
to
to dig
explicit
into the
answer.
meaning
They
behind
let the
every
public see
detail.
what they want to
But
show
over
without
time,
having
this
to
moment may
explain
turn
further.
into a part of history,
And perhaps
a small
it is the
fragment
wisest
that once
choice,
made the world pause,
because not
just to
everything
try
must
to
be
understand
explained
something
to
that
be
is basically
understood.
simple. There is a
And
relationship
maybe
that is quite
somewhere
felt,
behind all those
enough
highlights,
to see from
Jungkook
how
and
it
Jimin will
survives
only
in the
remember
midst
it as
of
one of the
time
many
and pressure.
moments they went through
A
together.
relationship that does
Without
not require
realizing that
validation
for millions of
because
people,
its strength
it is
has been
something
proven
much
by
greater. myself, an emotional mystery that will never really be solved. It is that their relationship will always be remembered. He changes, develops, and adapts to every phase of life they live. From teenage jokes to quiet maturity, from explicit togetherness to more subtle connections. All are part of the same journey.